Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today doing a Winged Dragon of Ra deck profile. So I'm really excited to see you guys because this deck is an amazing OTK deck that can summon out an absolutely massive Winged Dragon of Ra to OTK your opponent, which is an amazing thing for this deck to be able to do, to summon out one of the most nostalgic monsters in the entire game to perform an OTK, which is just crazy. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test stands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the Winged Dragon of Ra. This card is an insanely powerful monster that has the ability that it cannot be special summoned, and it requires 3 tributes to normal summon this card, and it cannot be normal set. This card's normal summon cannot be negated, and when normal summoned, other cards and effects cannot be activated. When this card is normal summoned, you can pay life points so that you only have 100 left. And this card gains attack and defense equal to the amount of life points that you paid. You can pay 1,000 life points and then target 1 card on the field and destroy it. This card is a crazy powerful boss monster because if you've taken no damage in the duel and you normal summon this card out to your side of the field, it's going to go up to 7,900. But I actually have a really interesting tech card in this deck that's going to help us gain some life points to get this card even bigger. We then play 2 copies of the Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere Mode. This card is a really good card to out all sorts of different monsters that your opponent's going to be playing against you, because it has the ability that it cannot be special summoned, and it requires 3 tributes from either side of the field to normal summon this card to that side of the field, and it cannot be normal summon or cannot be normal set. Then shift the control of this card to the owner during the end phase of the next turn. It can't attack, and your opponent cannot target this card for attacks or by effects. And you can tribute this card and then special summon the Winged Dragon of Ra from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. And if you do, its attack and defense becomes 4,000, which is a really awesome effect that basically during your turn, you just tribute 3 of your opponent's monsters, give this card to your opponent, and then during the next turn, you get it back and you get to special summon out Ra as a 4,000 attack point monster. We then play 3 copies of Guardian Slime. This is a really good card as well to be able to go into our copies of our Egyptian God Slime, and it's super easy to summon to your side of the field because it has the ability to, if you take battle or effect damage, you can just immediately special summon this card from your hand to your side of the field. And then during damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can make this card's gain defense equal that opponent's monster's attack, and then during that damage calculation only. And if this card is sent from your hand or field to the graveyard, you can add a spell or trap from your deck to your hand that specifically mentions the Winged Dragon of Ra in its text, which is really good to be able to search out certain cards like your Ancient Chant, so you can then search Ra. We then play 3 copies of Reactor Slime. Reactor Slime is a really good card to give us multiple monsters on the field because during the main phase, you can activate the effect to special summon out 2 slime tokens to your side of the field, but you can't normal summon or special summon for the rest of the turn except for Divine Beasts. It also has the ability that during the battle phase, quick effect, you can tribute this card to set a Metal Reflect Slime from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and it can be activated this turn, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. Really good card to be able to get Metal Reflect Slime, so you can then go into your copy of your Egyptian God Slime, which is a really good card. We then play 3 copies of Numeron Wall. I am playing a Numeron package in this deck now, and it's really good to be able to go in for that Numeron package because basically you're either going to OTK your opponent with the Winged Dragon of Ra, or you're going to OTK your opponent with Numeron, which is really good. But this card basically gets us to our field spell, and it also has the ability to control no cards except Numeron Wall. Quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the grave to immediately activate Numeron Network directly from your hand or deck. And you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. And when you take battle damage, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, end the battle phase, which gives us a little bit of protection so we can keep some of our life points to make Ra absolutely massive. We then play 3 copies of my personal attack for this deck, and then it's going to be 3 copies of Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. This is an insanely powerful hand trap that has the ability that during either player's turn, except during the end phase, you can quick effect discard this card and then apply the effect for the rest of the turn, that each time your opponent special summons an effect monster during the main or battle phase, you can gain life points equal to that monster's attack. And if you did not gain life points by this effect, your life points are halved during the end phase. This card is a really good card to be able to just boost your life points up to crazy amounts, to be able to then normal summon Ra, and it just comes out huge, which is really awesome. I really love this tech card in this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn, which actually works with a lot of our Ra cards, which is really good. I love this card in the deck because it helps us special summon out monsters back to our side of the field to be able to use to tribute summon out our copies of Ra. We then play a single copy of Terraforming, which is going to get us to our Numeron network extremely quickly in this deck. 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, because we don't want to deal with our opponent's back row, so we play Harpy's Feather Duster just to deal with all those cards so we can go in for an OTK. 1 copy of Called by the Grave to deal with hand traps, which is a really good card in this deck. 1 copy of Blaze Cannon. Blaze Cannon is absolutely nuts because this card is Ra's attack, but it basically gives Ra all sorts of different effects, and this card is always treated as a Blaze Accelerator card, which is kind of weird because it ties Ra into the Volcanic archetype, which is kind of neat, but I really don't know why they did that, but it's super cool. It has the ability that when this card is activated, it basically gives Ra 3 bonus effects. That this card is unaffected by your opponent's card effects, which is really awesome. And when an attack is declared involving Ra, you contribute any number of other monsters did not declare an attack this turn, and then Ra gains the attack equal to the combined original attack of all the monsters that you tributed for this effect. And after damage calculation, if this card attacked, then you can send all monsters your opponent controls to the graveyard, which is really good. Blaze Cannon is an insanely powerful card, and it's just super fun to play in this deck. We then play just a single copy of Millennium Revelation. I bumped it down to 1, and it's a really good card, but it's easily searchable off of Guardian Slime. So I ended up just playing a single copy in the deck. It really helps out as a 1-of. I don't feel like you need it as a 2-of anymore, but it's just a super good card that has the ability to send a Divine Beast monster from your hand to the graveyard to add a Monster Reborn from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Really good card effect, but with the Numeron package in here, I've decided to bump it down to 1. We then play 3 copies of Ancient Chant. Ancient Chant is an insanely powerful card for this deck because it lets you search the Winged Dragon of Ra from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and if you do, you can tribute summon 1 monster during your main phase this turn in addition to your normal summoner set. And you can banish this card from your graveyard, and if you tribute summon the Winged Dragon of Ra this turn, its original attack and defense becomes the combined original attack and defense of all monsters that you tributed to summon it to your side of the field. Really awesome effect because it makes Ra even bigger than it already would be when you normal summon it to your side of the field. So this card is a great 3-of. We then play 3 copies of Soul Crossing. This card is insanely good in that because it basically turns the Winged Dragon of Ra into a kaiju, which is really insane because it has the ability that during the main phase, immediately after this card resolves, you get to tribute summon a Divine Beast monster, which is always going to be Ra. And then when you do, you can tribute monsters that your opponent controls even though you don't control them, but for the rest of the turn, you can only activate 1 effect other than the Divine Beast monster's effect. This card is really good because it can out your opponent's field to be able to then normal summon out Ra and OTK your opponent. We then play 3 copies of Numeron Network. Numeron Network is a really good card because it puts 4 monsters on our side of the field, but it does have the ability that basically when this card is on the field and you activate its effect, you can only normal summon 1 more time after you activate its effect. But it's really good because this card basically sends from your deck to the graveyard your Numeron Calling, which you play as a 2-of in the deck, to be able to use Numeron Calling's effect to summon gates 1 through 4 onto your side of the field, which then you can use to tribute summon out Ra or just OTK your opponent with Numeron Calling and Numeron Network. Really good cards in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Memories of Hope. Memories of Hope is a good 3-of in the deck because it has the ability that you draw cards equal to the number of XZ monsters with different names that you control. So if you activate your Numeron Network and then send Numeron Calling from deck to graveyard, and then you summon out all 4 gates to your side of the field, you can activate Memories of Hope to draw 4 cards, which is really good because it helps you dig into the deck to get to your copies of Ra super easily. The only thing that you have to keep in mind about the Numeron package in this deck is you can't control a monster when you activate these cards, which is the only thing that you got to keep in mind while you play Numeron Numeron network. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 3 traps in this deck, and it is going to be 3 copies of Metal Reflect Slime. This is basically here because you can send it from your side of the field to the graveyard to summon out Egyptian God Slime, but this card basically has the ability that you can activate this card, special summon it to your side of the field in defense position as an Aqua, Water, level 10, 0 attack, and 3000 defense to your side of the field as a trap monster, which is pretty good because it does meet the requirements to summon out your Egyptian God Slime, which is super good to summon to your side of the field. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Egyptian God Slime. This card is super good in the deck. It is an amazing boss monster that has the ability that requires 1 Aqua monster and a level 10 Water monster to fusion summon it, but it does have an alternate way to actually summon it to your side of the field, that it must first either be fusion summoned or special summoned from your extra deck by attributing 1 level 10 Aqua monster with 0 attack. So basically you can use your copies of Guardian Slime or Metal Reflect Slime to summon this card to your side of the field, but with Reactor Slime also being able to set to your side of the field Metal Reflect Slime, you can easily summon it with 9 different ways in the deck to be able to summon this card, which is really good. It also has the ability this card can be treated as 1 or 3 tributes to tribute summon a monster to your side of the field. It cannot be destroyed at battle, and your opponent's monsters cannot target 4 attacks, and your opponent cannot target with a card effects any monster that you control except this card. So basically it also blankets your monsters to give them extra protection, which is a really great thing. We then play 2 copies of gate number 1. We play 2 copies of gate number 2. 2 copies of gate number 3, and then 2 copies of gate number 4. You play 2 copies of each of these so you can roll through them twice, which is really good. They all share the exact same effect, that basically they cannot be destroyed by battle, and at the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can detach a material from this card, which you don't have to if you control Numeron Network, which is a really awesome thing that you don't have to detach a material, because when you summon them, they won't have materials on them, and then it doubles the attack of all Numeron monsters that you currently control. So basically you attack once, double the attack to 2,000, attack again, go to 4,000, and attack again, and the last gate that you attack with will be at 8,000, giving you an OTK package with your Numeron cards as well as Raw, which is really good. We then play just a single copy of C1, which is a really good card to be able to summon on top of your Gate 1, which this card is a really good card for the deck, because basically it has the ability that once per turn during the next standby phase after this card was banished, you can special summon this card, this banished card, and then if you control Numeron Network and your field spells on, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the combined attack of all banished XZ monsters. And the way that this card is actually going to get banished is as if this card is XZ summoned, you can banish all monsters on the field, giving you the ability to completely out all monsters, which is really good. We then play a single copy of number 35, Ravenous Tarantula. This card is insanely good in the deck because basically this card makes it so that all monsters that you control gain attack and defense equal the combined difference between your life points and your opponent's life points, and Raw drops you down to 100 life points. So this card, making this card is basically going to make all your monsters become Raw because they're going to have 7,900 attack points if your opponent hasn't taken any damage. So this card is a really good card to summon in the deck. We then play a single copy of Rail Cannon as well. Rail Cannon does 2,000 points of burn damage to your opponent. So if you almost OTK your opponent with Raw, you can make this during main 2 and then just completely close out the game. So it's a really good one-up. And then we play a single copy of Infinitrack Megaclops. Megaclops is a really good card in the deck because you basically just use 3 of your gates during main phase 2 to summon out this card, and it's unaffected by other monster effects except XZ monsters, and it can't be destroyed by battle except with an XZ monster, which is really good for this deck to be able to have a crazy powerful 4K boss monster like this that's super easy to summon off of a field spell. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really awesome deck, especially since you can build a deck based on Raw. I really love the Numeron package in this deck because it helps out the deck a lot to summon out Raw, while also giving you a couple of different ways to OTK your opponent outside of Raw, which is really, really nice. I love the way the deck plays, especially with it just summoning out one of the most nostalgic monsters in the entire game, but it's just super fun to be able to play. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.